Hi,
Hey,
Sadie.
How are you guys?
doing well. How about yourself?
Awesome.
So, Sadie, let me introduce Alec. Alec, this is Sadie.
Hi, Hi, Sadie.
Hello.
Great to meet
Alec, Alec and I have been working together for 4 years-ish or something like that. And
Awesome.
so you have seen her, I guess, some on the Lena or whatever tapes,
Yeah,
but you've never met her in person.
I still haven't.
you. Right.
In person, in quotation marks.
Right.
Everything in this year is sort of relative to
That's
just about anything. So our task here, as I understand it, is that you have worn the beeper now, Sadie,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about what those beeps are. And is there anything else that we should be talking about before we do that?
No, I don't think
And
so.
and I should say that I am recording this. Skype is recording this, and when we're done, you can download the recording. Anybody can download the recording that's on the call, I guess is how that works.
Yep.
And sooner or later, we've been talking about putting this recording on YouTube,
Awesome.
but we're not going to do that until everybody agrees that that's a good thing for us to do, so that this isn't as it is now, what we say and do and whatever here, it belongs to the three of us. And until such time as we change our minds about that.
Okay, awesome.
And then let me think. Let me make sure that I've got my electrons all running.
Yeah, me too. I'm only seeing two of my logged brains. Oh wait, here they are. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that enough?
5 beeps?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's plenty.
Okay, great.
So I think I'm ready.
Mhm.
Awesome.
I'm hoping for the best electronic wise. So number one.
Number 1 was Thursday at 7:10 p.m. And what was funny was I had my beeper headphones on, but I also had these big headphones on top of them because I was I was like helping a underprivileged DC high schooler write an essay. And so when I heard the beep, I thought like she was feedbacking into it, and I was like, ah. Anyway, but that's not what you care about. It's before the beep. I was making an annoyed face at Steve, my husband, who was next to me in bed, and I was like pulling my lip down, and I was like kind of just feeling my my like annoyed face, and I was feeling the emotion of annoyed.
And is it your sense that you can identify when the beginning of the beep was, even though there was a little bit of a jolt there and a wondering? So
Yeah, I feel like I do. I definitely was making that face.
okay.
I was making a face at Steve. I don't know what he did to annoy me, but I think he was just overloading my brain. Like I was trying to do too many things at once, and he was like blah blah blah, and I was like,
Okay, so your face was engaged in a reaction of some sort, and that's a matter of the fact of the universe. So if we had been there observing, we would have seen your face. You were pulling down your lip or whatever.
yeah,
Now the question is that in your experience? And the object here is that I would prefer you not to guess about this.
Yeah.
The object of this exercise is to recall or not recall what was ongoing in your experience.
yeah. In my experience, like I really think at that moment there was a lot going on, like at a unconscious level. Like I was trying to think about too many things at once, and but I didn't have any like images or words or anything like that. I just knew that my brain was full, and Steve was adding too much. And then I definitely had the experience of feeling my lower lip like specifically pulling down right there, and I was like wincing at him. I was like,
And so when you say all that stuff is unconscious, would you say that the experience of a lot of stuff going on was in the moment, or is that on retrospection, a moment, a second or two afterwards, I can look back and say, well, I was really overloaded there?
this is a good question. I really think that I had an almost physical sensation of my mind being too full.
Okay. And
Before,
would you,
sorry, just to clarify, that's present before the beep?
Yeah. But the beep really added to it, definitely. I was like, ah!
Yeah, it can do that.
okay. So we sometimes use a diagram that looks like this, where this is time, and
Yeah.
time is marching on, and the beep occurs here,
Yeah,
and the beep continues, and then you push the button, you stop the beep, and time continues to march on like that.
yeah,
So the moment that we're interested in is this one that's right here, right 1 microsecond, we say, just before the beep began.
yeah,
What the beep contributed, that has to have been out here somewhere. There's
Yeah.
one more thing I got to deal with. But that has to be out here during while the beep was beeping.
yeah,
So the moment that we're interested in is out here just before the beep begins.
yeah. No, I remember that at first I felt like right before the beep, I had felt this like very distinct sort of tugging on my lower lip because I was making a face. And I was feeling the emotion of annoyed. Like those were the two main things.
Okay.
And then I thought before the beep, but after that, I was feeling like my head was just too full. Like it sort of felt like I don't know. It's sort of hard to explain actually. But then then I got the beep. And then for a long time, that whole like first segment of the beep, when it's up on the ridge, I was just like, what the hell is that beep? What is that? Why is this feeding back? But it was definitely not in words. But anyway, you're not interested in that part.
So at the moment of the beep that we are interested in, I'm still not 100% sure that I understand. I for sure feel something about my lip.
Yeah.
And I for sure feel some emotional response for frustration or whatever that is.
Yeah, definitely.
And then is the almost physical brain overload thing, is that present then all at the same time?
No, it was a little bit after. I think it was like a two-step. It was like a quick two-step thing right before the beep. Like I was making a face, I was feeling annoyed, like in a nonverbal way. I think I asked myself why I was annoyed, and then I was like, oh, my head's full. And then I got the beep.
Okay. So the moment that we're interested in is the very leading edge of the beep.
Okay, so it's not really my emotion, but the sense of my head being full of cotton.
If that was what was caught in flight by the actual leading edge of the beep, but not created by the beep, that's the time that we're interested in. Which is why we call it 1 microsecond just before the beep. But what we're looking for is what is connected, what is caught by the beep. And so in the diagram here, right now I'm understanding, and I'm still not sure that I'm sure about that, is that I was frustrated out here, and I pulled out my lip out here, and then I wondered why I was frustrated here.
Yeah.
And that's what gets caught by the beep.
I was definitely a lot of overlap. So when the beep happened, I was simultaneously feeling my own face make a face, and feeling annoyed, and feeling my head like kind of full of information. Okay. And like,
so there's sort of 3 things going on at the moment.
Yeah.
And
they just sort of started in a staggered way.
They started at different times, but they were all ongoing simultaneously at the moment of the beep.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Then, at the moment of the beep, is any one of those more salient, more powerful, more grab your attention more than the other?
Yeah, the physical sensation of like pulling my lip down was definitely salient. The most salient thing.
All right. And by the most salient, do you mean like 60-20-20 or 95-5 or 50-25-25? And I don't really care about the numbers. I just want to know what you mean by more. Do you mean a little bit more?
Yeah, it wasn't like the vast majority. It was like probably like 70%. And then I guess the other 2 were probably split evenly-ish.
So 70-15-15.
Something like that.
So pretty much predominantly on my lip.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And then so let's go to the lip. And so is the lip about the lip, a feeling in my lip, or about the pulling on my lip, or both, or?
Yeah, so I wasn't actually like pulling with my hand. Like I had a muscle here that was just I was pulling that down, like, "Ugh." and and so like I think that was maybe sort of feeding back into the emotion of annoyance. Like I felt annoyed, I expressed annoyance, and then it made me feel like more annoyed. And so
Okay, well, so let's assume that that's probably true, but let's bracket that
okay.
away. So
But it was really
explanation.
like the muscle. It was like if you're going to pinpoint the feeling, it was like the feeling of pulling an unusual muscle down on the left side of my face.
And is it pulling it? Is it I'm pulling that muscle down, or is that muscle is pulling down and I'm noticing that? So
It
do I
was
feel?
very much me observing it.
So
I
this
did
is
not intend to make it that face.
so this is happening in my face for whatever reason, whether it's connected to the emotion or not, we can set that aside. But for whatever reason, my lip is pulling down, and I'm observing that. I'm apprehending that as it happens.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I'm catching a sensation in my lip as it
Yeah.
pulls itself down. I'm feeling that happen.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've been pointing at one side of your lip. Is that
Yeah.
so? Is this
It was like the left side. It wasn't only, I mean, yeah, it was the left side predominantly.
so what I've got so far is that I feel the left side of my lip pulling down.
Yeah.
And does that involve my teeth? I can feel my lip against my teeth, or is it just the lip
No,
on
it's just like, it almost feels like one weird muscle. Just like how you can do this with one weird muscle. I felt like I was doing the lower.
Speak for yourself. I don't know.
I know some people can do it. My mom can do all four corners.
I don't think I have that skill. So what I've got about this portion of your experience is I feel the left side of my lip pulling itself down, and it's a pretty localized thing, mostly on my left side. Maybe some of the rest of my lip is involved, but for the most part, I feel this going down.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything more to be said about that, or you have questions more about that?
I don't think so. No.
Then that's 70% of my experience, and then I got a couple of other things going on. Which one should we talk about? You want to talk about the emotion or the?
Sure, we can talk about the emotion.
So what do you experience about that?
So the experience of annoyance was actually like very much like sort of like in my chest. Like it felt, I don't know how to explain it besides that, but it felt like it was just sort of like just a little below my sternum. I just felt annoyed. It felt kind of tight, maybe.
And by a little below my sternum, do you mean one specific region of my sternum, or do you mean sort of a diffuse?
Mm-hmm.
I sort of mean a fairly diffuse area, like in the area beneath my sternum.
Somewhere down here.
Yeah.
Okay. But not like one point, like some.
No, it was just sort of vague.
Okay. And what does that feel like? What do you feel?
It felt like kind of just tight and uncomfortable.
Okay. And so I have a sensation in my chest, sternum, substernum area or whatever.
Yeah.
And somehow I recognize that to be annoyance or something.
Yeah.
And so does it make sense to say I feel annoyed, and now when Russ is asking me about it, I can say, well, I feel it here? Or does it make sense to say I felt this in my sternum, and somehow I know that that's annoyance? So I want to know whether this is an emotion or whether it's a bodily feeling that you are sort of on retrospection interpreting as emotion.
Yeah, I think that I was trying to figure it out at that moment. Like at the moment, like I think I was like, okay, I've got like a lip feeling, I've got my sternum feeling, and then I'm like, oh, my head's too full. So does that answer your question?
Well, let me see. Let me tell you what I heard from that, and you tell me whether I heard it right, and then I'll tell you whether that answered my question.
Okay.
I heard you say just now that at the moment of the beep, I had a sensation in my sternum. And I was trying to figure that out, and I eventually figured out, well, I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
And so my experience at the moment of the beep was not of annoyance, it was of sternum sensation.
Maybe, yeah, I think that's true. I think right after the beep is when I named it.
Okay. Because and I'm not trying to say I like that better, because it can go the other way. It can go the other way too. Some people can say, well, I feel annoyed. And then when they start to try to catalog what the feeling of annoyance means, they can say, well, there was some feeling in my sternum.
Yeah, no,
and other people can say, well, I feel a feeling in my sternum. And when I try to figure out what that's about, well, then I'd say, well, it's got to be sort of like annoyance.
Yeah, no, I was definitely having like a problem solving moment. I was like, I feel this. What is it adding up to?
So far we've got two bodily sensations. We got a lippy sensation and a sternumy sensation.
Yeah.
One of them is stronger to me, more present to me than the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like a stuffed head sensation kind of after that.
And I believe you said along the way that was a bodily thing too. Is that right?
Yeah, it kind of is actually. Yeah, my head felt like sort of like stuffed with cotton.
And so do you mean that physically? Like I have a sensation of like cotton stuffed in my head. Obviously I know there's not cotton in my head or whatever, but it feels like cotton in my head, as opposed to,
yeah,
I'm using that as a metaphor. Cotton in my head as a metaphor. I'm really just thinking about a lot of thoughts, and when I have to describe it, I'm going to use this metaphor, cotton.
You're right. I did mean it as a metaphor. I didn't really feel it like pressure in my temples or anything like that.
So this is not a bodily sensation in the same sense that the lip and the sternum are a bodily sensation.
Yeah, it wasn't.
This is some kind of a thoughty thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And it seems like there's a lot of it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it going on. But I don't much know what it is. I can't say what I'm thinking about or whatever, but I can say I somehow sense there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then I think I'm good about that. Alec, you got?
I have one question. So we bracketed the theory that this face thing is an annoyance face, and I just want to make sure we didn't do that prematurely. Like, does either the sternum or the face, like, do they, in terms of your experience, are they connected, or they're pretty separate sensations? And if I have to analyze them, I think they have to do with annoyance, but in my experience, they're not connected.
I think that, very clearly annoyance was like what was going on below my sternum. My face felt it was a little unclear. Like I wasn't sure what it was about. So I think I would say the sensation in my face was like sort of separate from the annoyance. And then the sternum situation like clarified it for me.
Okay. So the sensations are definitely separate, and the sternum is more related to annoyance. The face, I'm not so sure if that has to do with annoyance or if that's just a face.
Yeah, and actually afterwards, I was like, I made that face at myself in a mirror to see what it looked like, and it looked like an annoyed face.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
So now I'm not sure that I quite understood. So that conversation makes it seem like the sensation in my sternum was immediately annoyance. Like I feel this as annoyance, and so
no, I think it wasn't immediate. It was just sensation first, and that just led up. Since we had two bits of information now, it added up to a clear answer.
Okay, all right, then I'm good. But before we go on to number two, let me make a couple of observations about our process here, because you're the fundamental person in this game that we are playing here, and we would like you to be good at it. So we're trying to teach you what it is that you need to do in order to.
Great.
And so what we have done in this one little beep here is to try to make some careful distinctions between sensation and emotion and whatever, which probably you have never really had to articulate before.
Yeah.
And we don't expect you to be good at it, and we don't expect actually even what you have told us today to be right. So you have said, well, it was a sensation and not an emotion. So this is the second thing I want to say. I want us to not be trapped by that. Just because we decided that this was more sensation than it was emotion, let's allow for the possibility. Let's seriously allow for the possibility that we were wrong about that. That for whatever reason we went down that path by mistake. And this was really a feeling of frustration. And then for whatever reason, Herbert tucked me into saying it was a sensation.
Sure.
So the moral to that story is I would like us to, we're trying to get it right, but we're not assuming that we're successful at it. And for sure, we don't want to be captured by what we do on the first day. This is a stab at it, and we're hoping we're going to build our skill, and our skill might go in the same direction that we do on the first day, or we might decide at the end of the first day, well, that was interesting, but it didn't really have anything to do with what my experience is really like. That was just adjusting to the process, or something like that. Which is why we have to do this on more than one occasion. It's a process that we have to go through.
Well, I have a terrible memory, so you don't usually have to worry about me getting locked into anything.
All right. Good. Then I'm good.
Me too. Number 2.
And I don't know that I already told you, but Alec and I will alternate back and forth.
Oh, okay, great.
And the reason for that is that this is fairly hard work to do the questioning, so it gives us a little bit of a break. But it also encourages alternate perspectives. So Alec and I have different views of the world and different experiences of the world and whatever, and so it's a good idea for us to think about things primarily from as many different perspectives as we can. In our case, 2 or 3, depending on how you count.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh, yes. Number 2 is at 7:54, and I was chewing on the left back part of my tongue, and I was thinking the word "thurs" like as an actual word that I was saying in my mind, because I was reading the word Thursday. It was like a very, very faint bit of self-talk. Like I couldn't really hear it actually at all, but I knew I was thinking the word "thurs." And I definitely had the sensation, first it was the sensation of chewing on the back of my tongue. Those 2 things were happening simultaneously when it beeped.
Okay. And you seem pretty confident about the timing. These were the things interrupted by the beep.
Yeah, those were the 2 things going on, as I was saying "thurs" in my head, but not in a way that I could kind of hear it in any sense. And then and I was biting my tongue. But the fact that it's abbreviated suggests that maybe I was saying it in some sense. I don't know. It wasn't super abstracted Thursday, I don't know.
Between the tongue and the thurs, is one of those more prominent, more salient at this moment?
Yeah, the biting my tongue was definitely more salient.
Okay. And again, the numbers, is this an 80-20, 60-40 kind of more?
This is probably more 60-40.
Okay, so just slightly more.
Yeah.
But still, okay. Well, then let's start with the tongue. So this is I'm understanding this to be is this a sensory thing?
Yeah, definitely sensory. It's just literally the sensation of my tongue getting squished by my own teeth. I don't really feel it in my teeth when I do it now anyway. So it's just all tongue getting squished a little bit. I guess yeah.
And is that how, as best you can say, is that how it was at the moment of the beep? That it was more about how my tongue feels than my teeth doing the squishing?
I'm not totally positive, but I think so.
Okay. And is squishing the best?
Is that the best word? No, it's more like a sharp pressure sensation.
Okay.
A real sort of localized pressure.
And localized where exactly?
On the back left side of my tongue.
Okay. And that whole side, or a very small?
No, just a little. I just caught a little bit of tongue
Okay.
between my teeth for thinking purposes, I guess.
Okay. Yes. Really helps thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Why would pain help me focus? I have no idea.
Oh no. Okay, so I feel we think more in my tongue, this pressure, sharp squishing of my tongue between my teeth, or this little piece of the back of my left side of my tongue.
Yeah.
And then at the same time.
So before we leave that aspect, so I'm gathering, or I want to know whether this is a to my tongue feeling. So this is a tongue being squished rather than a I'm biting my tongue.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely just my tongue was being squished. Like, I was like, it wasn't like, I didn't really feel like I was in control. In fact, when the beats, I was like, when I had to look at my sensations, you know, like that was what popped up immediately. Like, I didn't even ask myself why I was doing it.
Okay. So this is a tongue thing. My tongue is being bitten. And I might as well be in there squeezing your tongue, or Alec be in there squeezing your tongue, or whatever.
Yes.
It's
not like my decision to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And not only not your decision, but also not your awareness of your doing it.
Yeah.
This is not my jaw, teeth, whatever, clamping down. This is my tongue being squished. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's one thing I wanted to say. And then the second thing I wanted to say is that you said sort of inside, well, when I do it now, this is what it feels like. Mm-hmm. And I would like us to distinguish, I would like us not to do that as much as we can.
Okay.
And this is a skill that is part of the ongoing skills. So I don't expect us to be good at it right now, but there's no necessity for your recreated sensation to be the same as the sensation at the moment of the beat. Maybe it is, and maybe it's not. But what we're interested in is what your sensation was at the moment of the beat. So you've got a moment to try to grasp it there, and that's about all you can do.
Yeah.
And if we don't get the whole thing, we don't get the whole thing.
All right.
But let's not try to recreate it later and assume that it's going to be the same, because I think that's a slippery slope, and there's no coming back from it. So let's aim at what was going on at the moment.
Yeah.
And
so all I can say for sure is that I felt my tongue getting squished.
Okay.
And I guess a third thing that I would say is, it might sound like I'm being very critical here. I'm telling you to do it this way and not do it that way, or whatever. That is the way this process works. And you should not take it personally. And it's not like, oh, Sadie's been a really crappy subject here. You're doing great. Mm-hmm. But there's no reason why you would be skilled at doing the kinds of things that we're asking you to be doing. And we totally recognize that. We are teaching you a skill from scratch. And we hope that you will accept our suggestions as being a natural and necessary part of this project.
Sure. Actually, honestly, I would predict I'd be much worse than your average person, because I definitely qualify for something called severely deficient autobiographical memory. I can't remember anything. Anyway.
Well,
but I did write myself some pretty good notes.
We'll see about that.
Okay.
All right.
So then we've got the thurs portion of this experience.
Thurs, yeah. Thurs.
And how is that present to you?
You know, it's a word. It's definitely like present as a word and as an abbreviated word. And I think I actually was almost beginning to make the sound in my mouth. So I think I had this sense, I don't think I was actually doing it, but I had sort of the just a little echo of that feeling. So thurs was kind of physical too.
Okay.
And I definitely, I knew that I was thinking of the word, but I didn't I don't know. It wasn't super clear.
Okay. So no doubt it is Thurs, not Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm sure about that. And no doubt it's present, it sounds like.
Yeah.
This word's definitely present to me. And now sort of what's up for debate is there some speaking part? Is it spoken or almost spoken, or is it just known? It's somehow there.
Yeah. I feel like it was a little bit spoken. Like, not actually out loud, but I think I had made that th. I was either thinking about it or I was starting to do it, but there was a sort of a very faint sort of spokenness to it.
Mm-hmm. And like spoken in the same way as you would speak out loud, but just not out loud? Like, does that phenomenon seem the same?
No. Not really.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask maybe a more fundamental question about the speaking? So is there a voice involved in thurs?
No, there was no voice.
So there's no vocal quality to this thing.
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I also guess while I've got the floor here, so we've talked about thurs as being an abbreviation. Do you mean that it was as if the word was going to be Thursday, but I didn't quite, the beep caught it before I got the day portion of Thursday? Or do you mean it's as if I were vocalizing thurs and that was it, just like sometimes I would write down on my calendar thurs?
Yeah, that was it. I was not like going to think the whole word.
So this is not an abbreviation. This is not an abbreviated speaking. This is the entire complete speaking of an abbreviation, of a shortened version.
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe speaking, sounds like.
Maybe speaking? Yeah,
Maybe
like
speaking.
I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely, yeah.
And I guess one more thing about so about speaking, there is speaking that has to do with the mouth.
Yeah.
And then there's the experience of speaking that it feels like I'm speaking, but there's no mouth involved. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
got to keep those separate.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I definitely, like, I don't know. I felt the th, like I was like, th, but yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe more mouth focused.
Okay. So not such I mean, the word is there innerly.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something like actually physically on your mouth about the th.
Yeah.
Or in your mouth or.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely was making sort of the TH shape with my tongue, like very sort of faintly.
Okay.
And I was experiencing that. Like I had the experience of feeling my tongue do that thing.
Okay. But not with any sound, inner or external, it sounds like.
No.
Okay. Okay. And was the whole thurs present? So I know that the mouth portion is about the th, but in terms of what's present to me, it's thurs.
It was the whole thing, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I think I'm good on that. It's day one, and we'll have hopefully more opportunities to see what words are like for you, and if they're spoken or heard or there or something totally different.
Yeah.
I've got a couple more questions. So this beep apparently would involve two tonguey things.
Yeah.
Is that right? Simultaneous and unrelated to each other.
Wait, this one, oh yeah, I was chewing the back of my tongue and then I was going thurs. No, it must have been one after the other, right? So, but I don't know. I put from what I wrote down.
So the must have been is not true. So
Okay.
The experiential world is capable of doing lots of things that are not possible in the real world.
Yeah.
So you could have two entirely separate kinds of experiences ongoing at the same time.
I wrote that it was simultaneous, but I honestly can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I would say, in terms of our amassing skill here, that we have what would seem to be a very simple thing here. We have divided this thurs up into th and thurs as an abbreviation and thurs as a whole world, that's a whole word that is an abbreviated portion, and th as mental and th as possibly on your tongue.
Yeah.
The experiential world is a complicated place, and we are trying to differentiate that.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why you should have been able to do that. I mean, it was, we're learning how to be much more fine-grained, I guess you would say, or differentiated or whatever about experience, which is
Yeah.
what makes the whole world interesting, actually.
Yeah.
That it's sort of interesting all the way down. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah. I have one more question about Thurs now.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's possible that this could be present to you in a meaning as like a meaningful unit. I know, this means Thursday, or it could just be there sort of, who knows why. It might as well be in Greek. It has no meaning to me. Can you say about this beep? Does it have meaning?
I think the Thurs definitely had meaning. Yeah.
And it means Thursday, or?
Yeah, it
Okay.
meant Thursday. But I actually don't even remember what I was reading right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And does it mean a particular Thursday with a particular meaning? So not just an abstract Thursday,
Right,
but
right.
the Thursday the day after tomorrow, or Thursday that I have to do this, or Thursday that I was reading about, or
I think it was just like the concept of Thursdayness. Like,
okay.
Thursday, generally speaking.
Okay. And so one more part of the process here, I would say, is that we ask questions that are A, difficult, B, quite possibly impossible. So it's quite possible for us to ask impossible questions.
Yeah.
And you should feel free to say, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, or I can't answer this question, ask me tomorrow or the next time or whatever. I mean, our goal is not to encourage you to make things up. Our goal is to ask questions which allow us to go as far as possible, and for you to say, well, I can't remember, doesn't seem to matter, or yes, I can tell you this was an abstract Thursday.
I'm not sure, but I remember, I think it was just abstract Thursday. Like, I definitely wasn't thinking about my calendar or something.
Okay. Then I'm good for number 2. On to number 3.
Oh, okay. That was at 8:18 p.m. I was thinking the word dogwood because I was reading it. At the same time, I was thinking about my dad and my brother's relationship somehow. Yeah, so I think those were the two things.
And those are both ongoing, interrupted by the leading edge of the beep.
Yeah.
And one more strongly
Actually,
to
honestly, the wood happened after the beep. Like, just the dog part of the word happened right before the beep.
Okay. And which is more present to you, the dog portion of dogwood, or the relationship between your father and
The dogwood.
60-40, 90-10?
That is like pretty close, like 60-40.
Okay. And so let's go to the dogwood. So
Okay.
the word dog, the dog portion of the word dogwood is present to me at the moment of the beep.
Yeah.
In a voice?
No, just like, I just knew that I was thinking it.
Okay. So this word is present.
Yeah.
And present as the word dogwood, not just as the concept. It's not like I'm just thinking about the concept of dogwood. I'm thinking about the word dogwood.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the word.
And I'm reading about dogwood.
Yeah, it was like part of an address.
And is the word present to me simultaneous to my reading?
I think it was, yeah. It was simultaneous with the reading.
So if the beep had come a little bit later, it might have been street or whatever, dogwood street if it's part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the moment, it's just dogwood. In fact, it's just dog.
I think it was just dog, yeah.
Okay. And is that, when you say it's just dog, do you mean I'm saying dogwood, but the beep happens on the first syllable of that? Mm-hmm. Or do you mean I am experiencing dog, and a little bit later I'm going to experience wood, and I'm never going to have really experienced dogwood as one thing. I have chunked it up into its portions, and I'm experiencing dog, and later I'll probably experience wood, but at the moment of the beep, it's just dog.
No, it was like the first way you described it.
So I'm in the process of thinking dogwood.
Yeah,
but
and
the
it
beep
just
happens
like
to be in the dog
managed to
portion.
catch it right in the middle. Yeah.
Okay. And does that imply that there's some temporality to dogwood, that it takes a while to think dogwood and the beep catches me in the first part of this?
Yeah, I think it does imply that it
Okay.
was like, as I was reading, it was actually going through the syllables in
Okay.
my head.
And the word is present to me without a voice. And so is there any experience of speaking it or of hearing it or of any other thing, or just somehow the word is present?
Yeah, the word is just in my head.
Okay. And it's in my head, not just on the page or the computer screen or whatever it is that I'm reading,
Yeah.
but somehow at the same time as my eyes are aimed at the word on the page, I am experiencing the word in my head.
Yeah. As a word, too.
As
Like,
a-
I wasn't thinking of a street. I wasn't thinking of a tree. It was just the word.
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything more to say about how this word is present to you? Does it have any vocal characteristics, or
I don't think so.
so the word present, but just the abstracted word,
Mm-hmm.
the word for the word's sake, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yes.
Is present to
Totally.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right, then I'm good about that portion. Alex?
Can I compare that to Thurs in the previous beep?
Yeah.
So certainly the content is different, you're doing different things, the words are different, but in terms of your experience, how does dog compare to Thurs?
Yeah, so Thurs was much more embodied. Like I was like starting to make the sound, and it just felt like more concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Dogwood it just felt more floaty and abstract.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I actually kind of almost heard, there was like just the tiniest bit of hearing Thurs, but there was absolutely no hearing of Dogwood.
Okay. Good. Then I'm
Okay.
good with that portion, yeah.
And then somehow you're thinking about the relationship between your dad and your brother, is that?
Yeah, I was.
And how does that experience, what does it mean I'm thinking about the relationship?
Yeah, well, I knew that that's what I was thinking about.
Okay.
And it was kind of just like, I didn't have any particular thoughts about it. I don't know. It's just sort of, I just knew that I was thinking about it.
And it's the relationship between them.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm thinking about my dad, and it's not like I'm thinking about my brother. It's that I'm thinking about the connection or whatever between them.
Yeah. Like, I think maybe more specifically, I was thinking about how they kind of miscommunicate with each other.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. I got a call, but I'm back because I did find it.
So and by miscommunicate, do you mean that in parallel, in the sense that my dad miscommunicates to my brother and my brother miscommunicates to my dad, or is it one aspect of those that you're thinking about?
It's just like something about their connection that's wrong. Like, it's not like anyone's making a mistake. It's just like they just aren't.
They're not getting each other somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I'm thinking about this do I have a picture of my dad and my brother, or?
No, not at all.
And do I have their names or whatever?
No.
And is there anything that lets me, somehow I understand that I'm thinking about my dad and my brother's relationship and miscommunication, whatever. Is there anything more to be said about how that comes to me?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of have a buzzy sensation in my head a little bit, but like I I don't like, but it's really like more primary is the just knowing that I'm thinking about that.
And by buzzing, do you mean that metaphorically or
Yes, I
descriptively?
really mean it very metaphorically.
Okay, so there's something that's going on in my head
Yeah,
that I understand to be about the relationship and miscommunication between my brother and father.
yeah.
And and is there any valence or emotion or whatever to that? Like that's a bad thing, a good thing, just it is a thing, it's a fact that I'm thinking
I don't
about.
think I was feeling anything at that moment.
Okay. And you said in my head and a buzzing in my head, and I think you actually even pointed at your head. Do you mean to say it feels like it's going on in here, or is that metaphorical as well? It's a
It
mental
definitely
thing.
felt like I was thinking in my head. Like I knew I would locate the thinking being in my head. But
Physically in my head, as
yeah,
opposed to metaphorically in my head.
yeah, it felt kind of physical, but I wouldn't be able, I'm not really able to describe it.
And in my head, do you mean in my head or in my head or in the
Oh
front of
yeah,
my
like it
head,
was like
back?
pretty specific. Like it was like frontal lobe buzzing.
And now you're pointing to your, I guess, your right side. Is that your right side?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I would if I wasn't holding my phone, I would have done the whole thing. I don't really know.
Okay. So behind my forehead,
Yeah.
I feel it seems to me like there is a thinking that's taking place behind my forehead. And I mean that in a physical sense, not in a metaphorical sense. It's not like just mental and well, mental's got to be there.
Oh
It
yeah. No,
seems
I felt a little buzzy actually physically in my forehead.
okay.
But
And
I don't know if buzzy's really the right word. It just felt like something was happening.
I feel some physical happening.
Yeah.
We can recognize that, we don't have any sensations to our frontal lobes or whatever, but that doesn't matter. Experientially, it seems like there's something that's going on that's in here, not in here.
Yeah.
And
And
that physical thing is part of the thinking about my dad and my brother, or related to it, or
It's just at the exact same time, so I just related them, I think.
they're simultaneous, but it's not like the thought about my dad and brother is the buzzy thing here.
Not necessarily. I just knew that I just had a sense of both of those things happening.
Okay.
so not necessarily connected, but not necessarily disconnected either. Is that
Yeah. I just don't know, I think.
okay? All right. So we've been at this for 50 minutes. Do we want to do one more? And
Sure.
I do have to leave right at 2.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'll try to save myself a little more time next time, but I only had an hour today. So I don't know if should we go? We can go for it.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
sure, let's go for it. And then
Okay.
you have to leave. You have to leave, and then we'll worry about that later.
Sounds good. Okay. Number 4.
So let's see. I was making a GIF. This is what I wrote. I actually have no memory of doing this. And my mind was working on a problem, thinking of tags for the GIF, but it was not like, I just knew that I was thinking that, but I didn't have like any direct experience of doing it. Like I knew, like I could tell, like I could almost, I mean, I don't know, this is a metaphor, but the metaphor is like, I just had this sense that someone was going through like little word files in my brain, but not like visually or anything like that. Just like, I just knew that. Yeah, so I was basically like just like shuffling through my brain looking for vocabulary, but I knew that was happening, but I didn't feel it in any way.
Okay. So does that mean that coming up with a tag for this GIF is my task? If you had tapped me on the shoulder and said, "What are you doing?" I would say I'm trying to think of a tag for this GIF. But actually I don't experience that process at all. It's somehow outside of my awareness.
Yeah, it's really outside of my awareness, but I still know it's happening. Like I can almost feel it. I can, but it's definitely not something I really experienced directly.
Okay. Okay. And is there anything in your direct experience at this moment of this beep?
I don't think so. I wasn't looking at anything. I was like looking up to the left and the ceiling like that, but I wasn't really looking at anything, you know?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I just knew what I was doing in my head, but I didn't like actually experience it directly.
Okay. And is the knowing what I'm doing, is that part directly experienced? Like I'm aware of what I'm up to, but I don't experience what I'm up to. The details.
I don't think like that is really part of the experience. The not knowing is not part of the experience.
Okay, okay.
It doesn't feel like anything's missing.
Okay.
Until we start talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, but the knowing what I'm doing, I take it that is somehow an experience?
It is an experience, yeah. I think it's an experience, though it might just be a way that I explained. Like, maybe it's even, like, if it hadn't been beeped, I don't know if it would really exist, like, that experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great point, right? Because it's totally possible that you can be doing something very skillfully, even coming up with clever phrases or whatever, and that somehow is not in our direct experience. Eventually, something's going to pop up and I'm going to type it or whatever, but I don't have to, per se, experience the process or even know that I'm doing it. But it sounds like we're sort of a maybe on that. Like maybe I knew what I was doing, or maybe the beep sort of forced me to think about what I was doing.
Yeah, I think the beep really triggered it. Like, I think if you really looked into my experience at that moment, like as a mind reader, and you were just looking into my conscious experience, it just would have been pretty blank.
Okay, well, that's exactly what we want to do. If we could look into your experience as a mind reader and not have to beep you, that would be ideal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I was just like, bleh.
So the goal is to not talk you into things and not talk you out of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a range of possibilities here. This is the first sampling day. We're not expecting you to be able to answer these questions in any way that we're reliable. We generally, by the way, just throw out the first day, and
Yeah.
because there's too much possibility for mistakes. But the distinctions that we're making here is between I'm definitely experienced myself looking for a word, or I, in some vague, inchoate kind of way, experience myself as trying to figure out what to say, or there's nothing in my experience altogether, and I can say, as a matter of fact, that I'm waiting for the word to appear, and when sooner or later, with any luck, I'm going to get a word out of this deal.
Yeah, it was it was definitely towards the inchoate side of things.
Okay, and that's our goal is to try to be as what we call high fidelity about that as we can get.
Mm-hmm.
And we recognize that this is a process. You have to figure out how to adjust to the beep and not be surprised or shocked or whatever by the beep, and to figure out that we're going to try to be making distinctions which are careful, and how you have to go about doing that, and what you should write down and what you shouldn't write down. There's a lot of stuff that goes into this task.
Yeah.
And, so I would say we should end our discussion here. I think we've done a great job of what it is that we need to do on the first day. I think Sadie now has a good idea of what is happening and what kinds of details we're interested in, and who Alec is, and what kind of questions she would ask, and what kind of questions I would ask, and whatever.
Yeah.
So I would like to do this again. If everybody wants to do it again, then I would say I'll let you and Alec work that out. Let Sadie and Alec work that out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Probably your schedules are probably more difficult to match than mine. So sometime within the near future, Alec and Sadie get together.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you, Sadie.
Okay, great.
I'll probably just shoot you a text and we can pick a day and time, and I vaguely know his schedule, so we can work it out.
Awesome.
And do you have questions? If Alec has to leave, she has to leave. But do you have questions, Sadie, about the process?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Well, you did great, really. I mean, you're doing
Thanks.
exactly what we want you to be doing. It's interesting. It's cool.
I agree.
I'll take better notes next time though. I think I know how to do it.
Well, that's the object. All right, I'm looking forward to day 2, and you all are going to let me know when it's going to be.
Awesome, me too.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, bye.
Mhm.
Bye.